100 FM, the talk of Akron. He grew up in the suburbs of Cleveland. He's lived in Akron for a couple of decades, and he has a perspective on coronavirus. You know how we've talked a little bit about whether you know somebody or don't know somebody who has had this terrible, terrible virus. I shared with you how one of my bosses from ABC in New York, former bosses, John McConnell, was ready to meet his maker, was saying his goodbyes, thought that he was going to die. He will tell anybody, and it's not political for him, that thank goodness that the doctor, in consultation with Dr. Oz, gave him hydroxychloroquine and the Z-Pak treatment, and he he recovered dramatically. Well, Jim Isabella, this great host, was also sick with coronavirus. He joins us on our guest line right now. Jim, first of all, may I say it's great to be able to talk to you and know you're doing well, because for a while there, we were all scared to death for you, my friend.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate it, Mike. It was one of the strangest things I've ever been through in my life, and I never knew, I never suspected I had it until I went to the hospital, frankly.
Yeah. You developed a cough. I was reading about it, and we've been following your story. And I told Bill and the gang there at WNIR that I wanted to be able to catch up to you when you recovered. And and as they said, it was a tough recovery. You developed a real nagging cough. You could barely get through your radio show. You got worse, and then you were admitted to UH Parma Medical Center, right?
Yeah, what happened was, by that Friday, I called the boss. I called Bill Klaus, and I said, "Hey, I can't go. This cough's getting worse." They put me on a Z-Pak on that Friday before March 16th, which was a Monday, and it was just not improving. So I went to see the doctor. She said, "I'm going to send you to the hospital." They sent me to the hospital. It's the first time you're dealing with people wearing masks and protective gear. So they said, "Well, you got pneumonia," and they swabbed me on a Monday night. By Tuesday afternoon, they said, "Well, just in case, we'll put you in isolation," which is because they don't want the air to spread throughout the hospital.
Sure.
So then Wednesday afternoon, my wife is wearing a mask. She comes in, and the doctor says, "So, you got the coronavirus." Mm-hmm. And I looked up, and I dropped my head. I'm like, "What?" And I wasn't scared so much as I was bewildered. Like, right. How? You got to remember, this is March, the 20th or whatever it was. The 18th, and I'm like, how could I've got this? Is early in the game. We don't know as much as we do now, and they gave me antibiotics and blood thinners just in case. But I was only in the hospital for 4 days. But that cough persisted even afterward, and so I had to take 2 inhalers eventually, and just to shake this thing.
What was your treatment, Jim, in the hospital?
They gave me a lot of antibiotic stuff, intravenous. They also, at one point, you ever see those things that kind of look like you're it is this giant steam thing that you're breathing out for a while.
Oh, yeah, sure.
They were trying to give me all these different things. They didn't go to the other stuff that you hear now about the I can't even say it,
hydroxychloroquine. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, sure. Easy for you to say. But they weren't as sophisticated as they are now. So I didn't have as bad a case as some people. I was lucky I wasn't in a ventilator. But see, like I had trouble sleeping because I couldn't use a CPAP.
Sure. That was a big thing. A lot of people's CPAP machines were in trouble too. Now, Jim, thank goodness you've recovered. I'm back. Your voice is needed on this terrific station and we've been proud to be on your team for many years. WNIR 100 FM, the talk of Akron. I want to ask you a very difficult question because sure. you've experienced it and you had to think about your mortality, how bad this could have gotten for you. I'm sure all of that went through your mind. Now we have this big debate, and you're a talk show host. You're hearing it. You're sensing the frustration, the anger. Yesterday in neighboring Michigan, they stormed the state capitol. People are furious. I just got a text message right now on the MyPillow text line from a listener named Mike who said, "Glad Jim is well. Please ask him if his illness justifies me losing my job." This is that delicate balance we all are having to struggle with, Jim. What are your thoughts about the country trying to reopen after being economically devastated as somebody who had COVID-19?
Well, I think it's the trickiest thing I've ever said on the air is that, look, even if I hadn't had the coronavirus, by my nature, I'm very cautious. I'm very cautious. The problem is that when the politicians made the move, and I understand why, it makes sense to me, because they were dealing with the unknown. The problem is now, if they reopen too soon, they're going to get scorched earth, and we love to point fingers in America. That's the tough part. The tough part is there's no formula, there's no precedent, there's no protocol. I would say this, I think people have got to be smart about it. You've got to do it with some forethought. My biggest fear is no matter when you reopen or how you reopen, you got people who are slobs. They don't care about you and me. They will do whatever. I've had people call my show. Now, remember, I've had this virus, right? And say to me, I don't care if I get the coronavirus. Hey, I'm sorry you had it. But if people have to die, so be it. I'm thinking, yeah, it was you or your relatives. I'm not sure you'd feel that way. So we're in a debate. I think it's a minority of people that may grow in a majority of voices in this country who want to come back because, let's face it, two things. One, it's impatient. And two, losing your job or being furloughed is devastating. Been there, done it. And it's frightening to me because there's no guarantee of the way you do this.
Sure.
And as you say, it's a balance act. It's a tough balance. This will be the toughest ever.
It'll be the tough. Trump said it weeks ago. These are the toughest decisions anyone could have to make. Jim Isabella is with us. He's the weeknight host on WNIR 100 FM, the Talk of Akron. I wonder, Jim, because I'm mindful of the fact that I've got a job, you've got a job. I think a lot of people say, and even somebody like you, who thank goodness has recovered from coronavirus. I come into work every day being sensitive that millions of people are listening who don't have a job, who have no idea how they're going to feed their family. They've lost their business. They've lost their life savings. They are struggling. They are terrified. And I think is it difficult for you as somebody who was in the hospital for 4 days sick with coronavirus? Is it tough even now to put yourself in their shoes, considering the fact that we have jobs?
Well, it's not as hard because I have two daughters and they live together and they're both furloughed. One is a cosmetologist. Can you imagine how difficult that's going to be for her?
Sure.
And the other does childcare, and she's been laid off. So I'm on the front lines of hearing it from them. And I texted my daughter last night. I said, Tara, what do you think about going back? Are you scared? She said, I'm a little scared. I just don't want them to reopen too soon.
Sure.
Everybody is at a level of, what do we do next?
Yeah.
And I think it's like walking on eggshells. And I have no good answer. I have said I'm one of the few voices, and I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm one of the few voices I think right now in Northeast Ohio that said, slow it down, don't do it too soon. And yet I feel bad. I get sick to my stomach thinking, I get emotional that, God, because of people like me who had it, that people have suffered.
Right.
Mentally, physically, and financially. I don't know what to say to people. This has got me so stumped on what to do.
We're all stumped. The country is stumped. The world is stumped. And ultimately, Jim, the one I would so agree with you when you say there's no easy answer to any of this. It's so difficult, and we're going to get through this together as Americans. It's difficult. It's challenging. I just thank God you're okay. We were praying for you. I reached out. We were talking to Bill and your team, and I'm glad you're back at full steam and keep fighting the good fight. We need your voice there in Ohio now more than ever, Jim. Okay, thanks so much for spending some time with us here on the Mike Gallagher Show.
Just remember, people, deaths aren't statistics. Deaths are people.
They're real people, families, names, people. You're right, Jim. Jim Isabella, evening host on WNIR in Akron, Ohio.